And we are recording on Sunday, January 11th, 2026 at 1:04 p.m. Eastern Time with Mr. Tom Luongo, EM Burlingame, and Alex Krainer. You guys can go into the description, links to everything, and I'll just continue the conversation from where we just were about Alex is going to leave early and either jerk off on a chicken or in a chicken. So I hope everyone's having a wonderful Sunday. And Alex, I just want you to know you can do it on the show too. I'm very inclusive.
I feel it would be a little bit inappropriate, so maybe not.
I,
I,
EM.
that just goes so against my English sensibilities.
Yeah, I don't know if that's limited to one group's sensibilities. I think in
Really?
general, the idea
Okay.
of fucking a chicken on camera. I
Well,
guess live leak. I don't know.
what the fuck is wrong with German people, right?
That's also true.
Well, it's been done on CNN, hasn't it?
What?
Yeah,
It's
remember
been done.
Jeff, whatever his name was, like jerking off on the Zoom call.
Oh, I thought you meant
Yeah.
fucking a chicken. I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
like,
Well,
well,
it's the
dude, that would be
same.
crazy. That is not the same.
He was
Okay, guys.
growing. He was growing hair where it shouldn't be. But we got to get this conversation going. Yeah.
That
yeah.
is
Let's
true
get
because
that
we have a
done.
limited
So,
amount of time with Alex. So, kind of what
Yeah.
I saw from both you, EM, and Tom last night, kind of about as always, we've talked about all these actions, reactions, or how you draw things out. And I think Tom said it that the reason why this also exploded in LA is they have to do it all at once because if they do it one at a time, they're going to get picked off. And I think EM was saying like, "Hey, just watch it. You're seeing," and I know Mike Shelby said it like, "You're seeing whatever amount of resistance, quote unquote, is left, and that can be legal bills, busing, matching design. Anyone with any graphic designing anything understands that you get all these signs the same day. Somebody printed that. It's just what it is, and especially when it's in a different city." All of that, I don't think it's rocket science or conspiratorial to say those are funded. There's organization. It's just what it is. And EM, as always, you've said it's being drawn out. And I think, as Tom pointed out, they have to go. They got it. Because one group went Leroy Jenkins, so now the other ones have to. Do you feel that way, EM?
I I don't actually in this case. We have to be careful with LA. It's a unique outlier because that's Karen Bass. She's a known CIA color revolution expert. Is the mayor there? What I suspect is going on here now, there may be some of that, and maybe Genesis, but my suspicion is this is to try and distract the American regime, Trump and Academy away from what's actually happening on the ground in Iran. Because if we look, that's all a psyop. Everything is happening, everything that's coming out, there's an information war. It's all tail dog wagging stuff. And if they were going to get, the British and French were going to get their guy in there, they would need us to take the eye off the ball because don't think for a second that while we're not maybe we are even actively on the ground, we aren't doing all kinds of things to try and minimize whatever chaos, destruction, damage happens in Iran. And very much to what Tom was saying, there's 4 or 5 main factions fighting it out there. But the only one that really matters is the British French fucking one. So I suspect it's a deflection to something kicked off in Minnesota that was organic.
Yeah,
That was an organic thing.
that's what I was
Right?
going to ask. Is that was
Yeah,
organic?
that's organic. LA is probably organic to that because they're all retarded and stupid and etc. But I suspect the LA one specifically was let's try and deflect the administration, the intelligence, and everything else away from paying close attention and having all that cognitive capacity to ensure that Iran doesn't go in, yet again into the bad guys' hands.
You're saying Okay, I thought you were saying the Trump administration was letting this run so no one pays attention to them in Iran. You're
No,
saying the powers that are fucking around in Iran are going, "Hey, let's stoke this thing, keep their eye on
yeah,
right here."
they're succeeding too much keeping this from right
Got it.
because what's needed in Iran right now is some actual death count,
Yeah.
some no shit verifiable death counts. Now they could be totally false flagged and all of that. Like we're seeing right now body bags in Iran, except for the bodies are moving in the bags,
Yeah. We've seen that before with COVID.
kind of the usual.
Alex, I just want to make sure we get Alex in here.
Yeah,
We have a limited amount with him.
yeah.
A few things, I thought it was very interesting and back in the summer. um, the day when Trump bombed Iran, uh, it didn't seem, first of all, it didn't seem real to me in the sense that, yes, he did bomb them, but it was a 1 day polite action, pre-announced 48 hours in advance, telling the Iranians we're going to bomb here and here, remove, delicate things. So no casualties or very close to no casualties. And then he immediately declared that they obliterated the nuclear program. And Trump insisted on using the word obliterated. And he kind of coerced Netanyahu himself to go along with it. Why is this important? It's important because it tells me that Trump doesn't want a regime change in Iran. Why? Because Iran's nuclear program was the pretext, was the justification for going to war against Iran. If you obliterate the justification,
Yeah.
then you can't go to war against Iran anymore because how are you going to justify it? Nuclear program is no longer, and like we in Europe, unlike you uncouth Americans, we're fine people. We have our values. We respect democracy, freedom, and human rights. Yeah.
Got to get his lies
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, well, it's a long day.
He's off.
It's a long day. I know my value. Don't
Democracy,
I know my
freedom,
values.
and the ability to. Okay, thank you. Blinking
And
Morse code.
yeah, so I know that's going to sound alien to you all there, but
I don't care.
uh, anyway, and so once you've taken out the nuclear program, then you can't go regime changing because the public won't accept it. Public might accept taking out the nuclear program because we've been brainwashed for years, for decades, about how horribly dangerous the Iranians are. And so if they had a nuke, obviously they would kill everybody else. Obviously. And so that the way that whole thing played out tells me that Trump doesn't want a regime change in Venezuela. And then, there's another thing. No, sorry,
Or
Iran.
Iran. Either one. Either one.
Yeah, but then yeah, there you go. Because then today I was doing some research on Venezuela, and I happened on something that makes me suspect that not only did Trump not want a regime change in Venezuela, that the whole action there was to preempt a regime change in Venezuela. Here's why.
Correct.
In after Venezuela's last elections, which were, I think, 28 July 2024, all of the Europeans went, "Oh, Venezuela bad, Maduro bad. No, freedom and democracy doesn't work there. It's offending our values, and it's an outrage up with which we shall not put." So the G7, which at the time was still Joe Biden and Sullivan and Blinken and all these people, all these fine people, they put out a statement in which they pretty much said that the elections were illegitimate, that there's democratic how do you call it, deficit and blah 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 and on and on. So it looked like they were already putting their crosshairs on Venezuela, the globalists, right? Not Trump, the globalists. And then, when they gave Machado the Nobel Peace Prize, I was convinced that that wasn't Trump. It wasn't Trump who put a squeeze on the Nobel Committee to give the, how do you call it, the Nobel Peace Prize to Maria Corina Machado. It was them. It was the globalists. It was the same people who had G7 say, Venezuela bad and no democracy. And so what does Trump do? He he gets Maduro out, but not only leaves uh, Delcy Rodriguez in power, he approves that she should be taking over. And so it seems to me that he preempted that thing happening. And it then reconfirms my suspicion that that whole, removal of Maduro was a deal.
Mhm.
It was prearranged. Um, 2, 3 weeks before that happened, Trump was talking to the press and he was saying, we're very close to a deal.
Mhm.
And about the same time, Maduro gave a statement in which he was saying that, oh yeah, I've been on the phone with Trump. We had, like a long, good conversation, and he said it was very friendly and respectful. That's what Maduro said. So then, what was the deal? And then, the fact that the Chinese were there hours before Maduro was extracted, that was interpreted as a snub, as an affront to the Chinese. They're losing face. But I wonder what if, because I'm 100% convinced that the Russians are in the loop on these deals. That the Russians know perfectly what Trump is doing. But now I'm suspecting that the Chinese do as well, and that they went to Caracas for some reason that had to do with Maduro's abduction.
Yes.
And that the attack is exactly against these globalists because, National Security Strategy 25.
Mhm.
Trump's people say we're going to be dismantling the infrastructure of our enemies in our hemisphere. Well, you know, if they regime changed Venezuela, maybe that would be their beachhead against the United States from the south, in the same way that Canada is the beachhead from the north.
Mhm.
And so, by preempting their regime change, he took that card away from them.
Yes.
Anyway, so
No.
then when I listen to Scott Bessent's statements and Trump's statements and Marco Rubio's statements, they're talking exactly about this. I mean, they're not
Mhm.
laying it out, but Scott Bessent is exactly talking about dismantling their infrastructure. And he's
Yeah.
not talking about China or Russia.
No,
He's
no, no,
talking
no.
about the fuckers in Davos.
Yeah, yeah. And City of London. Yeah, Brussels and
Yeah,
City
yeah.
of London.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Forget Davos,
Yeah.
Brussels,
Big
right?
gay Patton is on it in the financial markets. So that's my new nickname for Scott. He's Big Gay Patton. Like seriously, that guy is not fucking around. And him coming out and saying that we're taking out all of their funding networks directly. Here in Minnesota, we're looking at all of it, and we're mapping. And I remember we're mapping all of the accounts, and we're mapping all the way all this goes. And I'm like, that's what's been going on behind the scenes. We've talked about this. I know we've all talked about this together, separately, and maybe at times together. That go back and look at what happened in L.A. back last January, and then in June and everything else. They were using those opportunities to field test whether or not they could nationalize the state guard, right? Whether or not they could, whether or not the American people would be okay with them sending in the Marines, right? And at the same time, they got all this lovely information about where all of the validating their methods for tracing the money. I think that would be the best way of putting that. And then they've just been doing that over and over and over again. And so what I find really interesting about what's happening now, and Yam and I can disagree about what we think is happening in Minnesota and California, but I note two things. One, Minnesotans, they're not deterred by the cold. These people live in it all day long. So getting real protesters out in the cold in Minnesota makes sense. California, 75 degrees all year round. Right. So you're not seeing anything in New York. You're not seeing anything in windy, wet, nasty Chicago. Right. You're not seeing anything, so getting protesters out in the middle of the winter is very, very difficult because it's just cold, windy, wet, nasty. Maybe you can get them out there for an hour or two, and you got to pay them $20 an hour or $25 an hour. But no. So I think in some ways that Trump and company were pushing the pace in Minnesota on purpose in order to push them onto the streets, and all we needed was the powder keg, and we get this crazy lesbian to do, a really dumb and tragic thing, right? And now they have their George Floyd moment. They have to go. They've already established the precedent that they go to war over things like this. And we're 10 days away from Trump going to Davos and bringing 3 bags of flaming poop to shoot, to skeet shoot over the audience and all of it. So when you put it all together, Alex, you're completely correct, right? The analysis is correct. They are not interested necessarily in regime change. They're interested in dismantling the networks, and that's why Greenland is so important. That's why the Germans and the UK and the French all announced today that they're going to send troops to Greenland to keep Donald Trump from invading. When Donald Trump is going to buy these people,
correct?
They're just going to buy them off. And the truth is that even then, what are these people going to do? We were joking about it last night. I was chatting with some of my friends, and we were joking about it. Oh my God, the Germans are sending 2 ships to Greenland. Like, do they even have 2 ships? Like, it turns out the Germans have 65, but that's I thought
they raised the Bismarck or something.
Shots fired.
But this turns out that, at the end of the day, I'm sorry, I think it's the UK that only has 2 ships left. So
2 carriers,
which is pathetic. But this is what we're dealing with now. So now they're going to move to banning Twitter X. They're going to fortify Greenland, and the truth is that Mark Carney is who's really in the crosshairs. I mean, even Claudia Sheinbaum, right? She's been signaling quite clearly that she's not a free actor. So it validates the model that we were talking about. Maduro, not a free actor. Ayatollah Khamenei, not necessarily a free actor, but he's the guy we're all supposed to hate. I'm not saying he's a good guy. I'm not saying Maduro's a good guy. I'm not saying Sheinbaum's a good woman. But, they're the people that you're supposed to, they're the figureheads for all this. In the same way that Donald Trump's the figurehead for everything you hate about America. If you're, how
do you retain power? You change out regimes every once in a while. This goes right back to Praetorian Guard. People just study Rome, right? Same model, same fucking people. What do? Well, every once in a while, you change out an unpopular emperor and a regime. His security never changes, though.
Mm-hmm.
Security guards, security teams, the in-house security never changes.
I just want to throw something out there because to try to understand what the hell is going on, I spent a lot of time in the last week listening to the pro-globalist people.
Oh, wow.
British
must have hurt.
Sorry,
I was going to say
that must have hurt.
Thank you for doing that. Thank you for your service, dude. Because I can't do it.
Yeah. Well, I had to keep my vomit bucket on hand a lot, but it's actually very interesting. Well, they have no idea what's going on. Okay, so there's no answer. They know that they hate Trump. The oozing contempt for the Americans. They cannot hold it back.
Right.
And there's, the one thing that keeps coming out, but it's not a talking point, it just comes out. They're very worried that if Trump can do this in Venezuela, well, then that's a signal to the Russians that they can do it in Ukraine and the Chinese that they can do it in Taiwan. So that almost involuntarily comes out almost in every conversation. And then the thing that I would like to propose here and wider is that we stop even talking about whether somebody is a good guy or not, because I hear a lot of time everybody say well, Maduro, blah, blah, blah. Not that he's a good guy. Who gives a fuck whether he's a good guy or not? Honestly, what's it called? Khamenei, is he good? Because in these British podcasts and interviews on Times Radio and GB News and all of, they're always like, oh, well, he's a very, very bad person. Oh, this one is a very bad actor. And, it's like, we're always obsessed about somebody not being good or being bad. And so, they're creating this idea that if we're taking somebody down, it's okay because that person is a bad actor.
It's
Like
an
that led to.
estrogenic argument. It has nothing to do
Yes.
with anything about competence, has nothing to
It has
do with
nothing to
anything
do
about what
with
they're
anything
doing.
because
Correct.
they have no problem supporting Pol Pot. They have no
Yes.
problem supporting.
Stalin.
Yeah, exactly. But they're always obsessively talking about good actors, bad actors, and like Maduro is bad, so he has to go, and Saddam is bad, and he has to go, and Gaddafi is bad, and he has to go, and as
Estrogen
though they
thinks.
are, like they're the arbiters of who's
Well,
worthy.
that's estrogen. Estrogen thinks in group, out group. That's how it
Yeah.
associates the whole world, right? The
So I would,
estrogenic.
like just
Yeah.
to torpedo that completely, not
Yeah,
even mention whether somebody is a good guy or a bad guy,
We're all
because
bad guys.
how is it relevant?
yeah,
Like,
right. No,
who's a good guy? Who's a good guy?
Correct.
Hold on,
it-
let me hold.
Is Jake Sullivan's a good guy? Anthony Blinken's a good guy. Victoria Nuland's a good
Nuland.
gal.
Hillary Clinton.
Hold on, let me.
Hillary
and then-
Clinton, but they never mention them. They only mention the guys that they actually want to get rid of. And then, of course, Maria Corina Machado, she's wonderful.
A saint.
She's wonderful. And they're hysterical that Trump dissed her. They're hysterical.
Well, I was
Tommy,
going to say,
you're trying
I was going to say, and then I'll let you guys keep going. I was going to say, one, it seems more like it's about getting consent from your base that agrees with you anyway. You're kind of rubber stamping it and going, it's okay. And more importantly, though, about good guy or bad guy, do you think Emperor Hirohito was like, well, at least I respect Truman? No, it was an A bomb. No one gives a shit. Like, I respect the SWAT team, so I'm going to come out. No, you. No, you're not. It's because they have guns.
No, Alex, if that the rant is absolutely spot on, and sometimes we, in the space that we occupy, right? We, in particular, these men that are talking right now, occupy, just every once in a while to remind everyone. I think it's actually that doesn't hurt to just say, look, I don't give a fuck. And in fact, I'm saying he's not a good guy or a bad guy by saying I really don't care about that. What I care about is his geopolitical importance, and that thereby. So I'm not absolving. So it was as people start to like tune out and say, "Oh my God, you're just being a shill for this thing, or you're being a shill for." Like, no, I'm not. I'm just like I'm trying to get rid of all the emotional shit so that we can get to the hardcore analysis. And that's what's important. And it's to your point as well, Alex. I'm not in any way.
Totally in agreement. We didn't put these people on the world stage, but they're on the world stage, so we have to fucking deal with them as people on the world stage. Doesn't matter, good, bad, or indifferent. They're on that stage. So, okay, you're the actors. I've got to deal with you in the play.
And more importantly, they all have incentives, and they all have structures, and they all have factions and everything
threats,
else. And yes, right? Exactly. And so what's so very important is that we stop looking at all of these places as monoliths, right?
Exactly.
It's really very important because I'm thinking about this, as they move to try and ban X, the reason they're trying to ban X in the Commonwealth and probably the EU as well is because they want to control the narrative of what these people in those countries see. I've been talking to people in Europe, and I know, Alex, you're in Europe, but I talk to people all the time because I have a lot of fans in Europe. They're like, dude, if you watch the news here, it's all the United States is about to fall apart. You see all these European accounts on Twitter, they say the same damn thing. And it's like, and it's part of the process. I'm like, in the same way that we probably over here overreacted to the yellow vests or to this or to that, or whatever, or to EM's point about what we're seeing in Iran today. Right. So the reality is, they pay these people to show up 40,000 people in the streets of LA for 2 hours in order to get the footage to then put it on, an endless, 30-minute repeat over in their news cycle, and then shut off everything else to the right. So it's very, very important that we understand that. And moreover, I don't know anything more about inter-Rome politics, like the factions within the city of Rome itself, than Italians understand. I got a note this morning from a patron that said, "Tom, thank you so much the other day for going over why Trump from Queens is so much different than Manhattan." He's like, "I'm an Italian from New York. I get it, dude. I grew up. I get it, but my Italian friends over in Italy don't understand it at all." And I'm like, yeah. So,
But if you
and
pointed them to Rome, they would totally understand.
they would point, yeah,
Because there's
exactly.
32 freaking major factions in Rome itself.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And
So
the families and the neighborhoods and the this
exactly.
and that. And
okay,
so
I want to float something by you guys, if I might, okay? Because I really want your thoughts on. Okay. My firm belief is that the Devosians, really the British Romans, right? That's who is behind this, are seeking to now collapse the liberal democracy that they spent 400 years bringing about. And what Trump and others, and Trump's just, he's a man filling a role, right? But the oligarchs around him are trying to actually save liberal democracy. And how do you do that, right? So I think that the no regime changes, but bringing about the changing of people or fostering, if the local powers decide to remove the leader, however, keep the quote unquote liberal democratic system to the current regime in power. What you're doing is you're using the liberal democratic system to save the liberal democratic system that is actually intentionally trying to be collapsed. Now, what you're also terribly 1 second, two small pieces. What you're also doing there is you shunting off revolution in your own country.
Yeah.
By maintaining faith and belief in liberal democracy, and then terribly sorry. One of the things, and then you're also not providing the argument that you're a totalitarian dictator that's trying to rule the world. So
I agree with all that. I want to say is that what's important is to minimize the violence domestically in these places that need to have these changes occur. You need to keep some faith in the institutions, because civilization collapses when faith in the institutions in every way collapses. So if you can walk the tightrope between reforming, keeping people have some faith that the institutions themselves can be reformed, that will keep a lid on the violence.
Right. And then that helps dramatically reduce the likelihood of World War III and or civil wars and revolutions at home in our own country. And this is why Trump's in America has to lead this, because we are the target. We've always been the target.
Yes. Agreed.
Right? Because we're the only ones with both the undeveloped and the developed capital assets, the resources and the capital assets necessary to reflush the system. They could take Russia. It still wouldn't be enough, because all those resources are in the ground, and they can do loans and all kinds of other things. You also need the already established capital assets, right? The money, the wealth that you can take.
The infrastructure, all of it. Yeah. Alex, what do you think?
Yep, generally agree, but
okay. Just want to make sure that
you also don't know, if you allow regimes to collapse and they go to the violence, you also don't know what's going to emerge out of that, and that could be that could shape up into a threat against you very quickly.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, what you're saying, what we're kind of saying here is, in order to minimize the amount of violence and the downstream and disorderly secondary, tertiary, quaternary effects of the change in government, you're trying to minimize that as much as possible, so that civilization itself isn't threatened in that place by because every place that you can do that in is another means by which to then make it easier for another place to be reformed without bloodshed and violence. And it's not just the United States. I'm talking about everywhere. Yeah, I don't care if it's Syria or if it's Yemen, or I don't, pick Burkina Faso, like all of these things. And watch, Rich is doing great work, trying to help us understand what's happening in the Sahel region, right? And how that's trying to sort itself out. And I think it's just one of those things that's popping into my head. And we've been watching this play out for the last couple of years, and, hoping against all hope that the old French colonial remnant can go away, so that these people can walk forward into the future, not at each other's throats, not seduced by the siren's call of, oh, by the way, here's some weapons, go fight your cousins over there, Hatfields, right?
So
that's what has to end.
Let's look at the United States, because this is, the conflict's coming here. We are going to have to do some things. So people are going to have to get indicted, and some of them are governors. So what is being done right now? What's being done right now is malicious actors that are in leadership are being removed. but the system, the structure, the regime, the voice of the people isn't being, suppressed, shuttered, shut down, crushed, etc. And though that system, so let's think, not saying this is the case for anybody, but think of Venezuela as if it was an American state that the federal government had to move against. Well, wouldn't that kind of be the way, without maybe the Delta Force and everything else, unless we're forced to it? But wouldn't this be the way you would want to bring about a change in Minnesota?
Sure.
If there was, not only indictable but convictable evidence against Waltz or Newsom or somebody else, right? No. And then what has they also done? We didn't send troops in to back the current government in Venezuela. It's like, we'll back you in your constitutional process, and you follow that, but you're going to have to stand on your own. Mm-hmm. Now, what did we do? We killed the foreign security assets. Okay. Well, what's going on in Iran right now? It's the same thing, right? They have to stand on their own. But we're not going to move against you, and we're going to try and help anybody who might unduly move against you. And if you survive this and you don't do what Trump said, right? You don't open fire on your own people, and you survive this, well, you're a legitimate power. You're legitimately in power. Now, what comes out of that? Hopefully, some changes and some societal changes and other things. But that's to you and your people.
But that's for the Iranians to figure out for themselves.
Correct. Internally,
and for Minnesota, it's very important. For example, that you bring in ICE. He's being begged to cross the line into the Insurrection Act to invalidate the idea of protest, to invalidate the First Amendment, to invalidate. Right. I mean, these people are all crazy, and they may be wrong. They made their constitutional arguments about what's going on here may be off, but they still have a right to that assembly under the First Amendment. And
the thing about the American system is you have the right to be wrong.
That's right. That's correct. Let's get the language right. Language correct. That is very correct. You have the right to be wrong. And here's when we get the indictable / convictable evidence, the system then actually is completely reinforced. The First Amendment rights of all these people were honored, defended and honored. Yes. Yep. The law enforcement was defended and honored. The rule of law was defended and honored. And all that we had to do,
leaving it up to the Minnesotan peoples to decide what they're going to do through their right. So we have an old saying in these old families before this whole liberal democracy stuff, right? The forms and rituals must be obeyed. Well, we're constitutionalist peoples. Well, constitutions have forms and rituals as well, and they must be obeyed. Or you actually are a tyrant, or you actually are unconstitutional. Right. And the American Constitution is the greatest expression of the English Constitution. We plugged all the gaps and holes of the time. We're probably going to have to do some more amendments and fix some amendments. Right. That's just the way it is. But the forms and rituals must be obeyed.
Yep. I have some commentary about the supremacy clause and the interstate commerce clause. I think need to be dealt with. But,
we also need to deal with the apportionment clause in the 14th, and we need to deal with there's many some gaps in the 19th, and that's
17th. There's a couple of things that need to be.
But I think this is also I believe fundamentally what the current regime and the power structure, right? Because it's not just the current administration. I shouldn't say regime. I believe fundamentally what they're trying to do across the board, not just the United States but elsewhere, is save liberal democracy. Because what the Devosians and others, the Fourth Reich, for all intents and purposes, that's what it is. Their intent was to collapse liberal democracy now and bring about totalitarian, National Socialist regime. And Alex, there's something you said, I think, in a conversation you and Kokinder and Rich had here recently. I fundamentally agree. We're not dealing with communism. We're already fascist systems. We've been in fascist systems since the 1930s across the board. And I disagree with Kokinder on one thing. I believe FDR finished what Wilson started in the United States.
I'm not a big fan of FDR, but I do believe that certain aspects of what FDR was trying to accomplish were correct.
I agree with what she was articulating about him and the intent after the war. I agree. I think that, again, like a message you and I had this morning, or I sent you, I think Eisenhower, I think MacArthur first, because MacArthur is like one of the most Americans we've ever had. People really need to go back. I was a big fan when I was a Tomb Guard, the Tomb of Unknown Soldier. He and his father are the only father-son Congressional Medal of Honor recipients, by the way. Right? And so I used to study. But yeah, so I think what's happening, I think the power structures, not just here, but in Russia, in China, and elsewhere, are trying to save liberal democracy. And to do that, you can't just go in and, cut the head out. You can't act like the National Socialists. You have to actually operate within, as expensive and difficult and hard as it is, as much as you can. You have to operate within the constructs and ideas of liberal democracy.
Yeah, it's one of the things that was out there this morning, covering the Minnesota protests. What headline bled on Zero Hedge this morning? Heads are going to roll like a 1793. Now, I read the article, and they led with that on Zero Hedge because, well, Zero Hedge learned British propaganda media techniques better than anyone. But that was just one guy holding one sign. But you can get an idea of the mindset of what messages they're field testing, they're A/B testing right now.
Yeah.
Alex.
Well, stuff can be done. I looked at how, when Putin came to power, he had pretty much the Western parliamentary system ruled by oligarchs on his hands. And the oligarchs had practically monopoly on political power in their country. And he didn't go in and run a purge, night of the long knives, and start putting people in prison and people disappearing and dying and so forth. He, about 6 months after coming into power, he invited 18 of the biggest oligarchs to the Kremlin. And he laid down the rules. These are the rules. And then, 3 of them challenged him. He didn't kill them. It went to court. So it was them against the state, and they lost.
And they didn't have to create any new laws. They didn't have to create any new. They used exactly what was on the books at the time.
And then the Brits, what the Brits were trying to do to try to get the oligarchs to mutiny, is they kept pushing out rumors that Putin was going to reverse the 1990s privatizations, and that he was going to nationalize what the oligarchs stole, and they really stole it. I mean, hundreds of billions of dollars worth of stuff.
Right.
And Putin decided, no, I'm not going to do that, because somebody's going to own it anyway. May as well be them. You got to pay your taxes. You got to treat your employees right.
Yeah.
And you got to stay out of politics. That last one was the biggest problem for them.
Right.
And so it went to court. They lost. Life went on. And then he invited them about 10 months later for another meeting. Same deal, 18 of the biggest oligarchs at the Kremlin around that ginormous round table. And again, he was like, I hope things are getting better between us. I wanted to reaffirm the rules and reassure you once more that there will be no reversals of privatizations. There will be no nationalization of what you have. What you stole is yours. Enjoy it. Run your businesses, blah, 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 and stay out of politics. And then the Rothschild errand boy, Mikhail Khodorkovsky, went to war against Putin. And he's the only one of the 18 oligarchs who ended up in prison.
And lost his wealth. He's the only one that lost his wealth, which is the most important thing.
Correct.
These people don't care if they go to prison. What they care about is losing their wealth.
Yeah. But you see, he also had some kind of a deal where if he got incapacitated, his share package would go to Jacob
Yeah,
Rothschild.
yeah.
Yeah, and then like that didn't happen. There they got screwed. But it would have been in any normal jurisdiction, it would have been an illegal contract because it was a contract, a binding contract with an unnamed party.
Yep.
Sorry, that doesn't exist. That can't
Yeah,
be.
yeah.
There's so many things wrong with all of that stuff. Alex, thank you. That was really good because it's been one of my arguments for a long time now that Trump and Putin talk all the time. I'm watching the way Trump has been handling the nascent color revolution tactics. It's very reminiscent of the way Putin has handled those tactics in the past. And you bringing up this aspect of it at this point in time is another angle on that exact thing to support EM's point. So outstanding. Truly.
So let me
excellent.
give you guys one other little piece that's in support of that. The only reason Putin was able to do that is because he could trust absolutely and fundamentally every aspect of his security detail.
Yep.
And that's what Trump does now. Trump didn't have that in his first term. Now he has it.
Yeah, he uses all private security now.
Now he's got, he uses public security, but he augments it with his private security. And his watchers watch the watchers.
And then he does most of his diplomacy at Mar-a-Lago.
Correct.
And he does all this at Mar-a-Lago.
And it's ludicrously expensive, by the way.
Mm-hmm. There's a guy I had on who Fred Burton, who's in the diplomatic security service and was all part designing the embassies and whatnot. And in his book, early on in it, it was written way before Trump took office, was him visiting then private citizen Donald Trump, and he was like, I went to like one of his casinos, like not even the flagship one. He's like, I went to the control room and like my jaw dropped. Like as a guy that did this for a living, he was like, this dude is rolling with like not only like a kinetic strike team, but like NSA style surveillance. And I've always,
the detection packages in those casinos is astounding.
But mind you, this is a guy that had not only done this for the DSS, but had also this. Well, he wasn't new. It wasn't me. He did that. He also did like private, whatever consultation. Like none of this was new to him. Yeah. Within that, he was like, Trump was like, that was insane. He's like, I left there and like golf clapped.
This is why I also think Trump. This is why I think Trump was selected in military academy. And I think his life's been carefully shaped ever since, and he's proven himself every step of the way. And he's not the only one. There's 3 others in his inner circle, and there's some others. I believe very fundamentally when they killed the Kennedys, they brought the reaction. And oh, by the way, they didn't just kill the Kennedys, they killed Lord Mountbatten. They blew up Lord Mountbatten. Why? Because Lord Mountbatten was the one who could have replaced the security around the crown, the royal family in England, and broken them free after 300 years.
Okay.
Right.
That's an angle I did not.
Me neither.
And so then what do? They paint him as Lord Mountbatten was mounting a coup. No. Lord Mountbatten was doing everything possible to physically free the British crown. Of course, that would look like he was mounting a physical coup by the enemies.
Right.
Okay. Here, I'm going to give you guys a little suspicion. I don't know, because it depends on how it plays out. And I think I mentioned, Tom, might have been you, me, or somebody else the other day when we were talking, but maybe it's Blaine. I suspect at some point, if it gets bad, we are going to see 17 and Delta Force the king and prince and the crown prince and everybody else out of England. And we're going to let the government there collapse. And
the other possibility is to not actually have to do that. I mean, that again, timeline, remember, Charles has been invited to the 250th anniversary here in the United States of the Declaration of Independence. Like nothing, the whole royal family will be there. If Charles accepts and William accepts and everybody else accepts and they're all there.
If you are going to, the last piece in the British Empire chessboard is the executive of the English system, and that is the crown. Mm-hmm. You have to hold the high ground. Well, you don't go in their country and try no. You pull them out. By the way, this has happened before in English history, more than once, and Scottish history, right? You pull them out, you secure them, you put your trusted absolute security around them. You let the government destroy itself and, ruin itself and bring civil war about, because that's what's going to happen. It's already started.
Mhm.
And then Charles abdicates. He's not healthy anyways. You can just see it in his hand. He's got major kidney issues. He abdicates, and we send William back with full now secured executive powers on behalf of the English peoples, who are a constitutional people.
Yep.
Right? And we send him back and we restore. And that's the last piece in this removal of this parasitic British Empire from the world. And back, Tom, to something you said, I do believe that we buy Greenland, not from the Inuits, but from Denmark.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we saved Denmark in the collapse, something you said. I think we're going to do the same thing with the United Kingdom under William.
It's all very possible. Like and then it frees Canada, it frees Australia,
Correct.
It frees Commonwealth,
all the crown territories,
all the crown assets.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
A question.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
To Mr. Burlingame, in case you happen to know the answer to that question. But what's the deal with the casinos? Because, there's something about casinos, and Trump ran casinos, and Mayor Lansky ran casinos, and what's his face, the Israeli donor guy.
Oh, I know Adelstan or whatever.
Sheldon Adelson.
Adelson.
Sheldon
Yeah.
Adelson, and then there's Roy Cohn.
And then the British Jewish billionaires ran casinos in Russia. They went in with casinos into Russia in the 1990s. And I randomly met a guy in Croatia who used to manage a casino in St. Petersburg for one of these people. And all kinds of everything happens there. Like the KGB people are coming, then these people are coming. I was wondering why. And he explained to me that somehow casinos have almost like their own jurisdiction.
Correct.
Like the local jurisdiction doesn't quite apply to them. Like what happens in the casinos is like in their own bubble. And then, maybe there's also, like a lot of wealthy and important people come there and they get themselves up to their eyeballs in debt. And so then these casino people own them. And so just as an aside, before you answer what he was telling me this. All these owners of the casinos in Russia who were like British Jewish, they were refusing to pay tax to the Kremlin. And so he was telling me that for like a couple of years, every few months, people from KGB, from the FSB, would come to the casino and they would say like, hey guys, you have to pay some tax. And these people were like, piss off, we don't even recognize you. And so they would come back and it was like, guys, really, you have to pay some taxes here, and he said like for like 4 years, they were refusing. They paid them zero. And you know what happened next? Like between 300 and 400 people of these Brits and Jews who ran the casinos all vanished from one day to the next. And the guy that I talked to, he told me my boss was one of them. And now I know as a fact that he was killed. Like they were all killed in a very short space of time. And then, of course, you get new management. And then the FSB guys come back and they say, like, you guys have to pay some tax. And now they're like, yeah, I guess we got to pay some tax after all. So then, anyway, that's the story. It doesn't matter. But I was trying to understand, like, what is the deal with casinos? Like, why is everything kind of converges into the building of the casino? And even the film Casablanca, you have a few outlines of that picture.
Okay. So give me 1 second. Great question and very important. Okay. Casinos are the clubhouse, right? They're the private club, right? The gentleman's club for both the mob and the intelligence community and the wealthy elite. It's the one place where the three of those entities can come hang out together. And it's all self-funding. So who created Vegas? Meyer Lansky and Bugsy Siegel. Who were the first big people there? Why'd they bring big stars there and all of that? Right. So for the intelligence collection people, they use the mob to do intelligence collection on people from all over the world. For the mob, they get to rake in they get to launder a bunch of money. For the intelligent, not the intelligentsia, but the high net worth, high powered folks, they get to meet mob bosses and intel bosses and pick up pieces of information and have conversations that maybe one or more of those other worlds, because they're different worlds, ostensibly set against each other and somewhat against each other. But casinos are the neutral territory in which all three of these great powers can sit down in the gentleman's club, and it's all self-funding.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because then you can, like a mob boss can meet up with like some top level politician on judge, and it appears
accidentally
that they
ran
both went
into
to
him
play cards, rather than if the guy came to visit the judge at his courthouse, people would be asking questions.
Yeah,
All
and
right,
if a
that
guy,
makes-
if you want, guy ran into a bad night and, judge or somebody, you don't necessarily have to set them up. They just had a bad night. Well, their debt gets excused. Nobody needs to ask anything. There's no favor, but there's an understanding. So that's what casinos are. And oh, by the way, the first one that was really the great one that did this was Monaco. Why do you think Monaco is Monaco?
Right.
Right? Because Monaco has from its not necessarily quite from its beginning, but pretty close to its very beginning, but really under Prince Albert's father, right? The Grand Duke, right? Monaco in the 1930s through the 1950s has been the, gentleman's club for mob, for mob assets around the world, for, real power leaders in the world, wealthy elite and, the legitimate folks, and intelligence agencies.
Monaco is chock full of intelligence assets. And they are, like there's so many that you can't even miss it. Even if like there's so many people that you think like, why are you here? How do you justify like how do you make a living? It just doesn't add up. And then, would you know it? Vladimir Putin was here twice.
Yeah.
And the guy who is the chief of Prince Albert's security is a friend of mine. He's Croatian. So he told me. And then just today I saw a little chunk of some documentary that was produced by Bill Browder, in which he's like pelting rocks and stones at Prince Albert, and he's showing pictures. Like that day when Vladimir Putin was filmed riding a horse, bare-chested. Yeah, Prince Albert was there at that time. They were hanging.
When I was in the yacht building business, we used to do Prince Albert's yacht show every year there in the old port. Yeah.
And then Edmund Safra got offed here unalive.
But look at all the car accidents that have happened either in France, just outside of Monaco, or in Italy, just outside of Monaco.
Yeah.
Right? On the way to Nice or on the way, right? Astounding amount of car accidents have happened that people get killed in and out of Monaco.
Yeah.
Even some boats, right? Even some sinking of some boats.
Yes.
Yeah, yachts.
The sea gets rough sometimes.
It does.
The roads, it's a lot of curves.
A lot of curves, yeah.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I wish I knew more about it, but I know a little bit about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's no passing in Monaco on an F1 race. Like there's like one pass in the entire because the streets are so friggin' tight. Like, ever watched the race in Monaco? Oh my god!
Yeah.
You watch for an hour and a half. It's like it's worse than a soccer game. You're waiting for the 2.5 hours of guys driving behind each other, and then
you're waiting for crashes. You're waiting for crashes. That's why you watch
for 2.5 hours. You're going like, what? Who's in the lead? What's going on?
Yeah, for your 2.5 hours of that guy's in the lead and he's going to be in the lead because nothing ever changes because that's the way Monaco is. I mean, it's just insane.
We used to watch Monaco because it used to regularly kill F1 drivers.
Well, yeah, but now the
Back
cars
in the
are too
old
safe.
days.
Yeah,
Yeah.
now the car's not. Yeah, but that's the reason why it was. Now it's just
Yeah.
the cars are too safe. Now the drivers are too good. The last time I watched an F1 race, I think it was in Monaco about 10 years ago. I'm like, okay, so this is worse than a soccer game. There's like 3 scoring chances in the entire game. There's like, I'm a hockey guy, right? There's I need 3. I need 3 scoring chances between whistles. Like
it's almost as bad as baseball.
Spoken like the token European in the audience.
Which is yeah. I wanted to flaunt it. I wanted to flaunt it.
Fair enough, Alex. Hey, I get it, but baseball, and I'm no fan of modern baseball at all. I gave the sport a miss in the 80s, but the purity of the original game, it's very subtle.
I tried hard to figure out baseball. Yeah. And I lived in Venezuela in addition to in addition to the United States, and baseball is big in Venezuela.
Yeah.
So made an effort to try to figure it out, and then I gave up. I thought okay, guys, this is so slow. This is so slow. I don't have this kind of time.
It is really meant to be a game that is watched in the stands with your friends, chatting about everything that happens as it goes along. Geddy Lee, the bass player, the bass player and singer from Russia, huge baseball fan, and he describes it that way. He's like, when you go to the game, it's like
a whole social event, right?
It's a different experience, and it's a thing. And it took him a while, but eventually he was like, downtime on tour, he would go to games wherever he was in town and learn the game. And then he's like, oh my God, it's one of the greatest games ever. But of course, he was also falling in love with the game when the game was good, and then the first strike happened, and then they lowered the mound, and then they altered all the stadiums because now it's just a long ball game, and it's horseshit. And 6 freaking pitchers a game, and it's all fucking horseshit.
The only sport that matters to me that I enjoy is regime change.
Oh, you mean hockey?
Alex has to bounce.
Yeah. Alex, it was great seeing you.
Gents, I wish I could hang out longer. It was a great pleasure. I enjoyed this conversation. I think we even gave each other a few ideas. I know I got some ideas. So until the next time, have a good rest of your Sunday. And I think we're going to have a very, very transformative 2026. Buy corn futures. When Trump goes to Davos, popcorn sales are going to be off the charts.
Mm-hmm. And prostitute futures.
and whiskey futures because Scotch futures because it's the Europeans and box wine, Devosian approved box wine sales will be off the charts. So
appreciate
it,
Alex, you have a great day.
Take your time, Alex.
As always.
Bye.
I was gonna say, if you want to see some crazy shit, look up some old black and white races.
Yeah.
Before they even had walls, dude.
Yeah. Jim Clark's era.
Yes,
and,
Jim Clark era.
Stories
I watched one documentary about that guy. I'm like, greatest race driver ever.
No, dude. Some of this stuff is
like a fucking piker.
Some of the stuff is insane. Like a car would hit, whatever, like a metal barrier. The engine would fly out and it would go through the crowd, and they'd be like 12 dead.
Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah. I mean, and that era, you got to realize that those manual transmissions didn't have synchronizers. Those guys were heel toe rev matching.
Yeah, the cars are 20 years old. Automobiles are 20 years old at that point.
I'm a stick kind of guy, but I'm no freaking way. No synchronizers, doing rev matching, heel toe at those speeds that way. Unbelievable. Yeah. Fucking believable what those men did and how good they were.
Tommy, from the conversation, what's
I was gonna say, we can keep going if you want to know. He had to run, but I got nothing to do.
We can chat for. I'm happy to go for about another half an hour, and then
I'm listening to you guys. All right, keep going. Yeah.
So Tom, give me 1 second.
Sure.
I don't believe that they're going to escalate Minnesota or LA or anywhere else right now. I think they're going to try and back off as much because 2020, if they go in now, then it gives justification for harder movements, harder actions. And they really think that they can set the condition for steals in 2026.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I understand that position. Yeah. And I agree that that's their preferred move on the board. Like I want the 3 wood move, but unfortunately the 2 wood move, by the time you get there, they already went there first. So if it's a game of Agricola, I want the 3 wood board as opposed to the one that accumulates 2 every round. Like, no, you're going to have to take that one. And you're going to have to take the pace that we're setting upon you. And so that's the only difference is to move the order of operations and move counter move. I think Trump and company understand that if they push the pace and they force them they force their army onto the board before they're ready. That's when you can wipe them out. And so that's why Besant is attacking the financial markets at the same time. It's why I saw this week, and I talked about it a little bit, not with you, but we did the show with Alex and Susan on Friday. I was watching the weekly, and even more so, I can look now what I saw on the weekly close when I looked at all of the cross market stuff. Very clear, they were selling the long end of the U.S. yield curve hard. They were moving it on Friday. They started dipping into the SOFR futures market, busting that on the New York Open on Friday morning. Our whole yield curve, long end of our yield curve, moved like 5 or 6 points on Friday, and it wasn't the fucking unemployment data. Okay, that data was not interesting enough to see that kind of move. But then we also started watching the euro rolled over, the yen started to break down, and the yield spreads on all of the debt in the 10-year markets all over the place. Lagarde was sitting on the Germans. The Italian debt was getting bought against the French debt and the German debt. And the truth is that and then Trump comes out with that statement about, I'm instructing Fannie and Freddie to go back into the mortgage-backed security market. And that's code for, oh, by the way, that's their traditional role to control the long end of the yield curve, because we expect our enemies in Europe to start selling their bonds and attacking our capital markets. So, all these things are happening at the same time. And so Iran, Venezuela, now he's talking Syria. They made a move on Syria. They made a move in Syria last night before I went to bed. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. So, and with the blessing of Jelani. So they're trying to wipe out ISIS in Syria. They've got all these theaters and are happening all at once. I got a note from Dexter White last night before I went to bed. It's like, I do think he's actually trying to solve all of these freaking problems all at the same time.
You have to.
Once you start the path.
Seeing it at the same time, this is eon, or at the very least decades in. It's coming.
Correct. This is a culmination of a lot of planning. This wasn't just made up in the last 4 years.
We're harvesting, but all this shit was planted. Correct.
All the assets, all the people, all the personnel, the loyalty testing, all of it. So here, Tom, here's my concern, right? Because it's openly being stated, is you and Alex and others and myself, recently on the large scale, on the public scale, I should say, have been looking at where we are and where we've been. My real concern right now is, in the book I wrote, The Eternal Wars, one of the doctrinal lines called agenda. And what is the agenda of the resentfuls? They're always embedding the next fight in the current thing.
Right.
When the current thing is just nascent, right? They've been embedding the new fight, the next phase of the fight in this very same counteraction, right? In the very thing. Okay. So what we're seeing openly out of Europe, claimed out of Europe, is a move to asymmetric warfare and a commitment to asymmetric warfare. And my concern right now, and this isn't a pejorative indictment, et cetera, right? It's just we need to collectively and individually start looking for the signs of asymmetric warfare.
Great.
Right? Because these are estrogenics. They're never going to stop. They're resentfuls. They're never going to stop fighting. They've already figured out what the next fights are, because they're always, we're busy trying to live life. They're busy trying to fight. They're busy trying to conquer and defeat us. So my concern right now is that we need to all start looking at what are the metastasized asymmetric ways in which they're going to react. and they're not going to be as obvious as riots and other things.
Right.
Right.
That's why I keep watching the bond markets. I keep watching the precious metals markets. You got to watch all these other things. Interestingly enough, now let's tie in Putin's role in this and the Oreshnik attack on the gas storage facility in Ukraine.
Signed to
At
Europe.
the same time that, as there was an attack on Berlin's electricity infrastructure, and then that's all happening all at once. Now you got to ask yourself the question: who did it and why?
Yeah. Well, Europe
did they do it to themselves, did the Europeans do it to themselves in order to collapse the democratic liberal order, as you were saying? Yeah. And then Putin said, "Oh, you think you're going to do that? Well, you're all going to friggin' freeze."
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, because what he hit was Ukraine, which is a perfect response. He hit European gas storage that was being outsourced to Ukraine because it was supposed to be, impenetrable. And that's why, and Putin always does this. You attack his house, he waits 10 days.
Yeah.
And then you see the response.
And it is a response you cannot react to.
Exactly.
There's no recourse. Right. So give me 1 second. Somebody wrote this. I don't know if it was you, but I think this is very, very important, not just with former Soviet assets, but this gets to why I was saying the United States has always been the target for collapse. It's the built up infrastructure. What Europe's looking at with Russia is not necessarily all the assets in the ground. It's all the infrastructure built under the Soviets. Yeah. If they can get that infrastructure for pennies on the dollar, they now have trillions and trillions of dollars of productivity capabilities that they don't have in Europe anymore. And they don't have to invest in it. It's already built and it's nuke proof. And so what did Putin and again, that's why they need the United States, because we do still have manufacturing and we can turn it back on fairly quickly. We have energy independence, which they don't accept. So this was the argument, was that the real value of Russia and the former Soviet bloc is there's a vast amount of industrial capacity, logistics capacity, et cetera, that's already been built, invested in, et cetera. It's nearly bulletproof. Well, then what did Putin just show? Yeah, except for we can take it out with one strike.
Right. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So you think you're going to come into here and you're going to come get our, productive resources for nothing, or you're going to move troops into, because this actually was also, the strike was just after they said the plan, or right around the time they said the plan that they were going to move troops into Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, why would they do that? Well, it's to try and occupy these facilities. So then Russia has to fight Europe to get the Europeans out. You think Putin's like, no, we'll just wipe them off the face of the planet before you ever get a chance to take possession.
Right. And, it's the same response that, NATO thinks they're going to do to Trump to stop him from getting Greenland. They're putting troops on the ground over there as tripwire. Say, well, if you attack our guys in Greenland, then NATO's over. And I've been saying for a couple of weeks now, the thing that scared me is the intuition, Europe is playing to kick us out of NATO, to get rid of the last restraint against their behavior, because we're the ones restraining them.
And as anybody who does logistics in war knows, you need Greenland as a staging area. If you're going to mount a war between Europe, using Canada's natural resources, and Europe and Europe's manpower, et cetera, to wage war against the United States, physical war from the north, you need Greenland.
Mm-hmm.
It's a staging area for ships, for subs, for aircraft, for logistics, refueling, all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So I suspect
very important.
Right.
It also cuts Europe off from the trade routes.
Correct.
The maritime trade routes to Canada. They can't get the natural resources.
Well, that's exactly right. Back to Europe, so they can manufacture it into weapons that then they ship back over here to fight us. Right. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Feeling froggy, take that leap.
Go for it. But we're gonna end run you, because we don't want to actually fight. So we're gonna end run you. We're just gonna do a deal with Denmark, with the Crown of Denmark. So the question becomes one of this, right? This is where I'm thinking. I don't know if we do some of these moves, because it's move counter move, before the collapse of the EU, or just the outright, final Night of Knives, SA, Fourth Reich push. where they just take over and burn the equivalent of the Reichstag. Or if we do this before the collapse of the EU, and in the way in which we do it, we facilitate, the exodus from the EU, in that, it's better to do business with the Americans and leave the EU, if that's the criteria, than it is to stay in the EU and try and fight this thing out.
Yeah. It's all of that is completely on.
I don't want to fight European boys. We don't want to fight European boys.
No, we don't. And so they're now actually using their own people as human shields.
Correct.
Against
us.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to fight European boys. We just do not want to do that.
Yeah. Why would we want to do that? We want to liberate these people. If we're willing to do a risk global opprobrium over liberating Venezuela and Mexico and Iran and Syria and all these other, quote unquote shitholes, why wouldn't we want to do the same thing to liberate, our people's homeland?
It turns out, unlike all of you people, we actually don't hate white people.
Right.
And even you tan fuckers down there in Southern Europe.
We don't hate our heritage.
We don't hate our heritage.
We may not care much about it. My personal, I'm an American. I don't know how to swear in Italian, pigeon Italian. On top, right? That's it. It's all I know how to do, because we didn't speak Italian in my family. Nothing. And we ate that way. I mean, obviously, but that's culturally, that's all I know. And
so I wonder, could we see this in the market? Because somebody always knows, right? Somebody's always front running the trade, right? So I'm wondering if we could see in market data, if we were preparing to buy Greenland from Denmark and thereby plug one of Denmark's major fiscal holes or financial holes or solid metals holes or something. And then that induces Denmark, which is a sovereign, monarchy, or can be a sovereign monarchy, constitutional monarchy, to leave the EU. And then that's a sign to other European countries, well, we can help you solve some of your problems, people, and you're going to have to do the things that we're doing here to get rid of people and go back to liberal democracy and all this other kind of stuff.
Right.
But we don't have to do it through blood. Right?
Yeah. No,
people need to realize 4/5 of the United States we purchased, right? Including most of the Western states. People think we took them from the Mexican-American War. No, we didn't actually. We purchased them from Mexico.
After beating them.
Okay, well, fair point.
No, but that's fine. But we still gave them fair. We still gave them some.
We still gave them fair market price. It's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Negotiated it out. It's not like we said we're the conquering heroes, and because think of it. We conquered them in that respect, but Washington,
we didn't have to pay them. Correct.
But Washington's 2,000 miles away, 2,500 miles away across our ridiculous terrain. Like, it's not like we could defend it, right? Militarily. So you had to buy it and then do it.
Well, that's the other thing. If you look closely, Mexico couldn't, or Spain first, and then Mexico couldn't defend it either.
Right.
And that's why they were willing to sell it to us.
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, it's only really good for raising cows on. And we're good at that.
Correct.
So my question about Greenland.
I like all these models. I think your head's in a great place today. By the way, I'm sorry, Tommy. Go ahead.
So my other question about things like, which I don't need any justification. I think we should just take it in Canada anyway. But things like the early warning line in Canada, as well as, I think the biggest one's Thule Air Force, but it's not. We have almost like a symbiotic, or maybe not because we're the main power, relationship with them. We have, nuclear bomber bases in Greenland. So none of this is new. Why all of a sudden the sort of formalization of we need it? I'm not against it.
That's exactly one of the first conversations Tom and I very, very much had. We are at war with Europe. Europe is planning to go to kinetic war with us. Greenland is absolutely essential in the logistics train back and forth.
Yes.
Now, whether they could win a war with us or not, they don't care. They don't want to win a war. What they want to do is they want to do exactly like World War I and World War II. They want to kill off a lot of their native sons so they're not threatened in their power regimes. And then they want us to financially support them for the next 80 fucking years. That's how they think. They want us to divorce them. They want it to be an acrimonious divorce. They want to cause us enough harm that we sustain their lifestyles on the other side of the divorce at immense expense to ourselves.
Yes. Those are exactly the terms that they're putting forth in front of Russia for Ukraine, for losing in Ukraine. It's exactly what they're doing in Ukraine. It's what they did to the Germans after World War I.
Correct. When you get that in your mind, when you realize that the old families of Europe are all matrilineal families, across the board, right?
Yep.
You're dealing with estrogenic warfare. They don't care if they win a physical war. They just want to cause you enough. What they really are trying to do right now is threaten us enough with asymmetric war and maybe an actual outright kinetic, no shit war.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't want to do that to win. They just want to threaten us so that we don't finalize the divorce, which is what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that if we do finalize it, we give them a nice settlement in the divorce so that we sustain their lifestyles for the next, till the end of their days.
And no.
Yeah, no. I got kids and I got grandkids and I need to support their life.
No is a complete sentence and does not need any further justification.
Doesn't even need an exclamation point.
No, period.
Yeah.
No.
Not this time. This time.
As a sort of meta theme, that's one thing I've really done throughout the history of the podcast is when I finally realized I didn't need to explain why I wasn't getting the COVID vaccine, and I thought the first thing that came to my mind is if I go ask a chick for a number at the bar or something, I'm not 6 foot tall, but I'm a muscle bound dude, and if she says no, I don't go why. That's a very quick way to get your ass thrown out. So now, if the answer is no, the answer is no. Why not? No. Same reason. Why'd you take Maduro? Because fuck off. That's kind of how I view it.
Why did you take Maduro? You know why.
No, not even. That's way too much.
You don't even say it. You just look him in the eyes. But here's the problem. Tommy, you used the analogy, right? You and I haven't been bouncers at bars. A girl goes up to a guy and he says no to her. She'll create a scene.
Mm-hmm.
She'll take it to a fight. She'll get some guys and some other people all riled up and there'll be a fight. That's very different.
Over me, boys. Don't fight over me, boys.
Right?
How many times did I invoke the terrible, unbelievably horrible, horrific image of Angela Merkel in a cheerleader's outfit saying, "Don't fight over me, boys," which is what she was doing over Ukraine with Putin and the United States.
I think I need Alex's puke bucket now.
Exactly. But I give it to you loud and dirty in order to make it stick.
You just ruined my Sunday, bro.
My work here is done. I can do the job from home and often do.
My stomach's been turning all day, and I don't know why. Thanks.
Well, this might have cured it.
No. That's I actually just hit,
that's it. I gotta go.
No, I actually just hit one of those kind of clammy burps where you're like, oh
man, goes.
I don't remember, boys. That's what she did, though.
No, but Tom. I mean, it's exactly. This is what people need to understand. Europe is feminine. It is estrogenic. And again, I'm not exaggerating. People can look it up. Go look up the oldest contiguous families in Europe. They're all matrilineal.
Mm-hmm.
And they are on every throne. They're in every, high net worth families, the wife of, the sister of, not the wife, the sister of, but the wife of, the mother of virtually every elite family in Europe. And some of these families, like the House Garsend, is over 900 years old, unbroken, mother to daughter. There's the House Eleanor, there's Fresney, there's all the, right? Well, this is how they think. They've been waging this war for centuries this way. They don't want to win. They don't need to win. They just need to force us to a point where the men are like, okay, I'm going to give you this. You're going to live comfortable. You're going to go away and you're going to leave me alone. The problem, that's bad enough that we keep doing that. The worst problem is, though, she will never actually leave you alone, and enough will never be enough.
No.
Until you're at, because what she's really down underneath, she's actually really pissed at you because you said what?
No.
Yep.
And now she's got to destroy you, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sorry, Tom. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that, and watch all of these videos of these women
Kaya Callis,
protesting. Well, no, I'm talking about in Minnesota. Go look at some of these. The women in Minnesota are insane. Like I just wanted to stand there and like ask them some basic questions about what's going on, and then they just like lose their minds and turn into these like it's all this performative insanity, and you're like, I know what your biggest problem is, sweetheart. You've never been slapped, is what your biggest problem is. But I'm not going to slap you. But I am going to document just how fucking crazy you are.
I'm going to highlight. So Tom, this is the fight we're having in the U.S. as well. We are at war with the estrogenics. And you're absolutely right. I wrote this the other day, right? The reason that lady got shot in that car is because she had been an unsufferable and dangerous individual much of her life, and nobody had throat punched her. And unfortunately, the first time she got throat punched, it was a bullet, and it missed and went into her face and killed her. And there are tens of millions of those, male and female, in this country right now.
Yeah, no, I know. And this is part of the problem. And, you know, I chat with, I have a bunch of different people I chat with. And one day I got a text from a friend of mine who's very hip on all this shit. And he just looked at me and said, it looks like you're trying to, single-handedly bring back the words like retard and all these other things. I'm like testosterone is starting to seep back into the conversation. And he didn't just mean me. He was like, thank you for doing X, Y, and Z. Thank you for your service for trying to change the language. But then there's just in general, like midget. That was the one I was calling him tracksuit. I was calling Zelensky tracksuit midget. And he's like, yeah, we get to bring midget back into you can't say that. Well, then that's retarded. I can't say midget, you faggot. But that's where we are. And it's starting to leak back into the conversation. And when you have a leader that is like Putin, is a perfect example. Why do people like Putin? Not because he's not because he's a good guy or a bad guy or this or that. He's none of those things. He is calm and projects the exact image of the father figure you want in a responsible leader of your household. And Russia, in the case of Putin, Russia is his household. Right. And in many ways, Donald Trump's, his public persona vacillates too much because he's such a figure that he doesn't create that same image. But here's the thing. Let me finish this and say this. I think he does some of that on purpose. I know he does some of that on purpose because that's not his private persona, right? His public persona is to tweak these people into insanity in order to show how deeply these people are insane and disturbed so that we can look at them and go, those are my neighbors. Yeah. And they're right over there. And then we meet them at Thanksgiving, and then we meet them at Christmas, and then we meet them at the line, standing in line at the fucking Wendy's, and and then we go out and we put on a MAGA hat, and we go to see what kind of response we're going to get, or whatever the thing is, right? And that's when sometimes you give voice to a problem in order to give people the spine to go out and find out, to give them the spine to then show their voice in their own little way. Putting on a bumper sticker, wearing a MAGA hat, doing the thing, openly chatting with their friends, in line while waiting for coffee. That the ass on the chick in front of you is, kind of hot, is kind of hot, even though that because she's got a fucking purple hair and a nose ring, that everything from the neck up, I wouldn't, God forbid she opens her fucking mouth, but the ass is hot. And then that's
might be able to factory reset her, maybe.
Well, that's not what I'm getting. I know. Yeah. Insert in here and factory reset the bitch. No, what I'm talking about is that full well that there's a very good chance that she's going to turn around and give you a nasty look, and you just kind of look at her and go, "Still have a nice ass, babe."
Exactly. Okay, Tom, totally agree with everything. Here's my sense of exactly what you're saying. Okay, and I wrote a book called This Our English Civilization. And one of the subtitles is, pub brawl, a couple of them. Okay. We're pub brawlers. Mm-hmm. Americans are pub brawlers. We are English, Scottish, Irish pub brawlers. That is who came to this land and who built and carved this land out and built it. We are pub brawlers. We're not fancy, stylish. Now we can be when we need to, et cetera. But we're pub brawlers. We talk, our father, right? He needs to be a pub brawler.
We know, right? We know when to put on the Italian silk suit.
Correct.
We don't have to.
Not the
we
shark
know
skin
how to
one.
match our colors and our ties. And then there's the other time when we're like, you know what? I'm still buying the $7 shirt from fucking Walmart and the cargo shorts, and I'm gonna wear sandals with socks because I fucking can because I'm an American.
Yeah, or I'm gonna look at that one. I'm gonna call him fake and gay. I'm gonna call that one a retard. I'm gonna go, you're cool, and you got a nice ass, but the rest of you sucks.
But more importantly, you're gonna call your friends retards.
Correct. But that's the thing. That's the thing. Everybody, we fell for this whole European posh stylish stuff. And the problem is we're fucking English civilizational peoples by our nature. We are pub brawlers. Mm. We work things out talking shit to each other. And every once in a while having to back it up with a fist fight. But generally we get through that shit and we go have a pint and we become friends.
Yeah, and it's so funny. We're talking about this. I'm almost like, my wife, my wife gets asked all the time whenever I'm out in public. She's like, "Do you watch Tom when he's on?" She's like, "Fuck no! Like I have to listen to this shit all day long, right?" And my wife swears like worse than I do. She's quite adept, right? But at the same time, she's like, when we start doing like this, and she watches us be men that way, she's just like, men. They'll be fighting like we'll be screaming at each other over politics. God damn, and like literally all of it. And then it'll all calm down. We'll like look at each other. Someone will still break the tension. We'll break the ice. The third person in the room will go, "Come on, boys, take your dicks out of each other's ass or whatever." And then, all right,
he'll come with a fucking six pack, and crack some cans, and say, "Here,
and
boys."
Go outside, light a bunch of cigars, and my wife will just stand there and go.
Well, this is the thing we've got to. This is a fundamental thing.
She doesn't understand it, and she's been around.
It's women are women, but I know women like this too, right? Good, healthy English civilizational women. They talk shit to each other too.
Of course,
they do it different than we do, and of course, et cetera. But this is the thing that we, somewhere in the late 1800s, really when the Gilded Age, sons and daughters started marrying European royalty and replussing up their, estates with the American monies, we started to try and become, stylish Europeans. We're pub brawlers. American society, American culture is English society and culture, and Irish and Scottish, and we're pub brawlers. And we have to we need to accept and understand that because that's our greatest strength. Mm-hmm. We talk shit. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's just fun and playful. And sometimes it's very real, but it's the best way to do it. It's the way to do it so we don't have to go really to violence and civil war and all this other kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And every once in a while we have a scuff. Some of us have a scuff with each other and then we work it out. And then either a new pecking order is realized or we realize, I was kind of stupid. That was kind of dumb. Why did we do that?
Really sorry.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
It's like that. There's a great story of I've heard this one where when they were making Blade Runner 2049, and there was the fight in the bar between Ryan Gosling and Harrison Ford. And in that fight, while they were doing it, Ford missed and clocked Ryan Gosling in the jaw, like clocked him hard, and it happens. And so everybody got the day happened at the end of the day. This is so fucking Harrison Ford. He walks over with a bottle of he walks over to Ryan Gosling's trailer with a bottle of 18-year-old scotch, pours one drink, hands it to him. They look at each other. Sorry about that. Drink the drink, and he's like, "That's it." And Ryan's like looking at him like, "You're going to apologize?" Well, no. What do you think we're going to like? You think we're going to like fuck or something? No, we're done.
Yeah,
that's it. That's the closest thing you're going to get to an apology. And then he like walked out
because that is an apology
and the two glasses, and that was that. And he was done.
Because I don't need to apologize for anything. It was an accident.
Yeah,
but it's a recognition that the accident hurt you. Okay, exactly. There's one other piece. And I'm terribly sorry, guys. I'm going to have to run. Right, but the other piece is that in that pub brawler way, we all got to see the strength in other people. We all got to see sometimes a fight between somebody and go, "Whoa, wait a second, I don't want that," because that's what real violence is. Mm-hmm. And that's something we've lost in this. This in a couple of books I've written. Right, civility is a shield. Civility is a shield. It's a shield to mask and hide true strength so that weak cunts can rise up into positions of power. And then what happens? Because we're not pub brawlers anymore and it's not allowed and it's frowned upon, nobody gets to see in their everyday life that, oh shit, you don't pick on that guy. You don't take that person on. You don't say that shit to that kind of person. He doesn't have to hit you. You just, you grab that bitch by the face and just push her over there. Right?
You just know. Yeah.
And know.
Everybody, if anybody is confused about any of this, just go and watch They Live for the greatest fist fight in the history of cinema.
Oh, I've not seen it. Now I have to go.
Oh my God, really? No, They Live has
Yeah.
the longest fist fight in film history. It's 7.5 minutes between
Is that the
Roddy Piper
is that the one in the alley?
and Keith David in the alley. It's 7.5 minutes long. It's an 84-minute movie.
And somebody pointed out it's a fantastic metaphor for the pain you're going through when you're trying to wake somebody up to the world that you finally
that's exactly
see.
what it
Oh,
is.
interesting.
It's exactly what it is.
Here
The fist fight is over. Put on the Hoffman glasses. See the world for how it is. No, I refuse.
Well,
No,
that's
I refuse.
exactly okay. So great. That's exactly what I'm saying. People can't see the reality of strength and real strength because we're not allowed to be pub brawlers anymore because that's how we used to see it.
So,
Somebody said something stupid. Somebody did something stupid, and they paid for it physically. And other people around were like, "Damn!" Right?
Yeah. So, your mission this evening over 2 fingers of scotch.
All
is
right.
Watch They Live.
All right. It's done. I'll do it.
Me, I'm going to watch John Wick 4 because same thing.
All right, gents, we'll wrap it. As always, appreciate y'all's time, and we didn't say anything mean about Alex. I think that's
Oh, we got it all
chicken fucker.
front loaded. We front loaded all of
I
that.
suppose I
That
did
chicken
open the
fucker
show
up.
with. I suppose I did open the show with. He's gonna fuck a chicken to death on camera. So perhaps I did.
Yeah, you front loaded.
It'll be coq au vin because he's in France, so it'll be cooked chicken on top of it. Oh yeah, old hen.
Well, I've had enough. So we're going to wrap it. For everybody listening, please go in the description. Please go follow the Twitters, Patreon, Substacks, YouTubes, all that stuff. EM, Tom, and Alex will be in there. We will do another one next month. Gentlemen, thank you both so much
Cheers,
for your
guys.
time. Always a pleasure. I appreciate it. Guys, thank you for watching. Hey guys, real quick, you guys know Basil Baz, ARC, the Association for the Recovery of Children. I just did a fundraiser with them the other day, and I'm going to put this on to every episode I do. They are special forces veterans who physically rescue trafficked children. They have since 1993. They have a 100% success rate. They do not take salaries. They all have day jobs, and they literally rescue sex trafficked children. Donations to them are a tax write-off. I get nothing from them, and they have not asked me to put this on. I've included this little clip on episodes for the last year or so, and I'm just re-recording it because I just got to meet him just 2 days ago for future. It's November 25th, 2025, but this will be on every episode now for the next year. And there is nothing better you can do with your money. If you can support them for even $5, please do that. They truly are doing the Lord's work, and I think we all have an obligation to do that. Thank you so much.
Higher ultraviolet exposure is associated with lower mortality. The United Kingdom is a high latitude and low sunlight country. Researchers there collected data on over 360,000 participants in a study of UV exposure via solarium use. When compared with non-users, solarium users had 15% risk lowered of all-cause mortality, 23% lower risk of cardiovascular mortality, 14% lower risk of cancer mortality, and a 12% lower risk of non-cardiovascular, non-cancer mortality. In other words, all other causes. Quoting the researchers, our study adds to the growing evidence that the benefits of UV exposure outweigh the risks in low sunlight environments. A link to the original publication is available in the box below the video. Get some UV light this winter. Immerse yourself in the tranquility of the blue. Visit a Blue Room soon. www.blueroom.com.
Hey guys, a huge sponsor of the show is Heaven's Harvest Prepper Food. Clayton lives down in Georgia. He's been on the show before. It's actually nearby where I went to college. They are a huge sponsor of the show. They give me some money every month, even when I don't sell enough to warrant that paycheck. Meaning that the show is not free. It's just that it's free for you. If you guys need prepper food, or if you're just interested in supporting the show, I'd please ask you to go to the link in the description. Go to Heaven's Harvest Prepper Food, promo code TPC for 10% off. 72 servings per pail, 25-year shelf life. These things are they double as dumbbells. Pasta Primavera, cheesy potato soup, mac and cheese, loaded baked potato casserole, chili mac, cheddar broccoli soup, cheesy lasagna, teriyaki rice. You can get banana chips. There's also raspberries, strawberries, and apples. There's a bunch of freeze-dried fruit, or you can even get seeds to plant your own garden. It's not a bad thing to have. It's like gold or ammunition. It's a good thing to have. It's a bad thing if you have to use it, but it's good. It's good to have it, not need it, than need it, not have it. So that's what I'd say. And if you just want to support the show, please go to the link in the description. Please go support them because they support me. Thank you so much, guys.